I can't marry a failure, Paul. I just can't. Every time your phone rings with another creditor, I see my mother's face the day we got evicted. I worked too hard to escape poverty to marry back into it. I'm sorry, but I need security. I need someone who can provide. You're a good man, but good doesn't pay the bills. I'm done. Those were the last words Mary spoke to me before she walked out of our apartment. Her apartment, technically, since my name wasn't on the lease anymore. That was 8 months ago. 8 months of sleeping on my sister Elena's couch. 8 months of dodging calls from collection agencies. 8 months of watching the woman I loved post photos with Richard Sterling, the trust fund VP who never built anything in his life except his tolerance for expensive scotch. My name is Paul Vincent, and I used to be somebody. 2 years ago, Tech Innovator magazine called me a visionary. My startup, NextGen Solutions, had $5 million in series of funding. I proposed to Mary with a ring I saved 6 months to buy, not because I couldn't afford better, but because I wanted it to mean something earned. Then my business partner, Thomas Ashford, cut corners on safety protocols to boost profit margins. When I discovered the fraud, I had a choice: stay silent and keep my company alive, or tell the truth and lose everything. I chose the truth. Within 6 months, my company was dead, my reputation was ashes, and Mary was gone. What she didn't know, what nobody knew, was that I had a secret. My grandfather's pocket watch sat in my drawer, heavy with more than sentiment. It was a reminder of a promise. A test. And 8 days ago I finally passed it. Please we continue, like, share and subscribe for more interesting story on this channel. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, sliding under the door of my studio apartment like a knife. Cream-colored, expensive card stock, my name written in elegant calligraphy. I recognized Mary's handwriting before I even touched it. She used to write our grocery list this way, turning mundane errands into something that felt permanent. My hands shook as I picked it up. Inside, embossed lettering announced what I already knew in my gut: Mary Ashford and Richard Sterling request the pleasure of your company at their wedding ceremony. The date was 2 weeks away. Saturday, 4 p.m. Black tie optional. I sat on the edge of my mattress, no bed frame, couldn't afford it, and stared at the invitation. Why would she do this? Why invite the man whose life she watched crumble? Jennifer, her best friend, must have told her this was cruel. But Mary sent it anyway. My phone buzzed. Elena. My 19-year-old sister, who should have been starting medical school at Berkshire last fall, but instead withdrew 3 days after my company collapsed. She claimed the scholarship fell through. I believed her until I found the letter she'd written to the admissions office, dated exactly 72 hours after my bankruptcy filing. She gave up her dream to work double shifts at Marco's Diner, slipping me cash she claimed was from extra tips. Don't go to that wedding, Elena's text read. Please, Paul. She doesn't deserve to see you. I touched my grandfather's pocket watch, the one possession I'd refused to pawn even when the electricity got shut off. Grandfather Samuel used to say, "Wealth without character is just expensive poverty, boy. Remember that." On his deathbed 3 years ago, he made me promise something I didn't understand then: don't touch the inheritance until you've lost everything. I'd lost everything. And now the test was over. I called Elena immediately. She answered over the clatter of dishes and shouted orders. Marco's Diner, this is Paul? Hold on. The noise faded as she stepped outside. Please tell me you're not going. I need to tell you something. I walked to my window, looking out at the city that used to feel like mine. About last week. About why I disappeared on my birthday. Your 30th birthday. You said you were at a meeting. I was. With William Grant. Remember him? My friend from the neighborhood, the attorney who handled my bankruptcy pro bono. I paused, feeling the weight of what I was about to say. Elena, grandfather's trust unlocked. On my 30th birthday, just like he specified in his will. Silence. Then, what trust? The one he made me promise to never touch until I'd lost everything and proved I didn't need money to define me. The one worth $47 million. The one that includes controlling shares in Vincent Maritime Holdings, 3 properties, and enough capital to rebuild everything I lost 10 times over. I heard her drop something. Glass shattering. Paul, you had money this whole time? No. I had a locked box I couldn't open. Grandfather wanted me to understand who really loved me when I had nothing. Mary failed that test. My voice hardened. But you passed it. You gave up medical school for me. How did you? I found the letter, Elena. The one you wrote to Berkshire. The one dated 3 days after my company died. My throat tightened. That's why I disappeared last week. I wasn't just meeting with William about the inheritance. I was making calls. Pulling strings. Fixing what you sacrificed. Paul, what did you do? Check your mailbox when you get home. There's an envelope. Open it. I smiled for the first time in months. And quit that diner job. You're going to medical school. William Grant's law office smelled like old books and expensive coffee. He sat across from me, his expensive suit a reminder of how far he'd come from our old neighborhood. We grew up 3 blocks apart, both of us sons of working-class parents who believed education was the only inheritance worth giving. Your grandfather was a brilliant man, William said, sliding a leather folder across his mahogany desk. Samuel Vincent knew exactly what he was doing with that trust structure. I opened it. The numbers made my breath catch even though I'd had a week to process them. 47 million in liquid assets. Controlling shares, 52%, of Vincent Maritime Holdings, the shipping company grandfather built from a single cargo boat. 3 properties, a penthouse in the city, a house in the Hamptons, a villa in Tuscany. Investment portfolios diversified across tech, real estate, and blue-chip stocks. There's more, William said, pulling out a second folder. This one was thinner, marked with a name, Richard Sterling. I took the liberty of running a background check on your ex-fiancé's new husband. Why? Because he's been Googling you every week since Mary started dating him. He checks your LinkedIn profile, your old company's bankruptcy filings, even your social media. He's obsessed with you, Paul. And I wanted to know why. I opened the dossier. Richard Sterling III. VP of Operations at Sterling Holdings, a position he'd held for 6 years without significant advancement. Born into wealth. Legacy admission to Princeton. His father still controlled the company. And there, buried in the financial documents, was something interesting. Vincent Maritime Holdings owned 15% of Sterling Holdings stock, acquired by my grandfather 12 years ago as part of a maritime alliance. I'm a shareholder in his father's company? I asked. The 3rd largest shareholder. And Richard's father is considering early retirement. The board vote is in 3 months. William smiled. You're going to that wedding, aren't you? I touched grandfather's pocket watch. She invited me. It would be rude not to attend. The menswear store on 5th Avenue was the same place I'd bought a tie on sale 2 years ago, back when I was on magazine covers. The manager didn't recognize me as I walked in wearing thrift store jeans and a jacket with a broken zipper. Can I help you? His tone suggested I couldn't afford to breathe their air. I need a suit, I said calmly. Something that costs more than the rent on my old apartment. His expression changed when I handed him the black credit card William had given me. Of course, sir. Right this way. The tailor was an elderly Italian man who measured me with the precision of a surgeon. You have good posture, he observed. Military? Broke, I said. You learn to stand straight when you've got nothing left to lean on. He nodded knowingly. And now I'm reminding someone what they walked away from. The suit was navy, hand-tailored, Italian wool that felt like wearing confidence. The tailor suggested a Patek Philippe watch to match grandfather's vintage piece. I chose understated elegance over flash, wealth whispers, it doesn't shout. Shoes from John Lobb. A haircut that cost more than I used to spend on groceries. When I looked in the 3-way mirror, I barely recognized myself. The broken man who ate instant noodles was gone. In his place stood someone who looked like he belonged in boardrooms and country clubs. Sir, the tailor said quietly, you look dangerous. Good. I pulled out my phone and texted William, it's happening. Saturday. 4 p.m. His response was immediate, I'll have the car ready. Make her regret everything. I stared at my reflection one more time. This wasn't about revenge. This was about dignity. About showing Mary, and myself, that integrity doesn't mean accepting defeat. Grandfather taught me that wealth without character is worthless. But character with wealth? That changes everything. I found Elena at Marco's diner during her Thursday evening shift. She was refilling coffee for truckers and businessmen who barely looked at her, treating her like part of the furniture. When she turned and saw me standing there in my tailored suit, the coffee pot nearly slipped from her hands. Paul? She looked around frantically. What are you doing here? I'm working, I can't. Your shift just ended. Permanently. Unless you want to keep working here. What are you talking about? But her eyes were already filling with tears. I walked to the counter and slid an envelope across the Formica surface, between the ketchup bottles and the sugar dispenser. Open it. Her hands shook as she lifted the flap. Inside was a check for $100,000, made out to Elena Vincent. Beneath it, a letter on Berkshire Medical School letterhead, dated yesterday. Dear Miss Vincent, We are pleased to inform you of your reinstatement with full academic honors. Your tuition has been paid in full, including housing, books, and a living stipend for all 4 years. Elena's sob was so sudden, so raw, that the entire diner went quiet. How did you? Paul, where did you get this kind of money? Grandfather's trust. It unlocked last week on my 30th birthday. He made me promise not to touch it until I'd lost everything. Until I proved I could survive without it. I reached across and took her hand. I found your letter, Elena. The one you sent to Berkshire, withdrawing 3 days after my company collapsed. I had to help you, she whispered. You're my brother. You would have done the same for me. I know. That's why your entire medical school education is now paid for. That's why you're never working another diner shift. That's why you're getting the dream our mother would have wanted for you. I squeezed her hand. You passed grandfather's test, Elena. You loved me when I had nothing. Now let me give you everything. She came around the counter and hugged me so hard I could barely breathe. The truckers applauded. The manager looked confused. And I felt for the first time since Mary left like maybe I was going to be okay. I didn't know it then, but that same evening, Mary stood in her bridal suite staring at her reflection with the kind of doubt that hollows you out from the inside. Jennifer Hayes told me this later, after everything that happened at the wedding. After the arrival. After the confrontation. After Mary's world tilted sideways and never quite righted itself again. Mary wore her wedding dress, $30,000 of silk and lace that Richard's credit card paid for without him even asking the price. She should have looked radiant. Brides are supposed to glow with joy on the eve of their wedding. Instead, Jennifer said, Mary looked like someone standing at the edge of a cliff, trying to convince herself that jumping was the same as flying. You don't look happy, Jennifer had said, closing the door behind her. I'm marrying a millionaire. I should be ecstatic. Mary's voice was flat, rehearsed, like she'd been practicing that line in her head for months. Should be. But are you? Mary pulled out her phone. My social media profile was open on her screen. No recent posts, no updates since the bankruptcy, just an old photo of me at a tech conference when I still believed in the future. I sent him an invitation, she admitted. What? Mary, that's cruel. He lost everything. You know that. I need closure. I need to know I made the right choice. Jennifer moved closer. What if he doesn't come? Then he never really loved me. Mary's voice cracked on the word, loved. And if he does come? Silence. Long enough that Jennifer said Mary's hands started trembling exactly like mine had when I opened that cream envelope. Then Mary turned to the mirror and practiced her surprised face, lips parted, eyes wide, hand to chest. She did it 3 times. Each one looked more forced, more fake. What if I made a mistake? Mary whispered to her reflection. Jennifer didn't answer. She didn't need to. Saturday arrived with cruel sunshine. The kind of perfect weather that belongs in wedding magazines, all blue skies and golden light filtering through oak trees. The Sterling estate was exactly what you'd expect from old money. Manicured lawns, a garden venue with imported Italian marble, and enough white roses to supply a funeral parlor for a month. I sat in the back of William's Tesla Model S Plaid, not flashy but expensive in the way that people who know cars immediately recognize. My suit was perfect. My watch caught the sunlight. My heart was surprisingly calm. William drove, occasionally glancing at me in the rearview mirror. You ready for this? He asked as we joined the line of luxury vehicles approaching the valet stand. I've been ready since the day she walked out. I touched grandfather's pocket watch one last time, then left it in the car. I didn't need it anymore. Let's show them what integrity looks like when it's paired with success. The valet's eyes widened when he opened my door and saw the Italian leather shoes. Then the hand-tailored suit. Then my face, calm, composed, utterly at peace. I tipped him $100 bill without looking at him, the way Richard probably tipped everyone except I actually meant it. I could hear Richard before I saw him. His voice carried across the garden, loud with the kind of confidence that comes from never being told no. Mary's ex is supposedly coming. The guy who lost everything. Should be entertaining. His friends laughed. Someone asked why he'd invited me. Mary wanted closure. I wanted a reminder of how far I've come compared to men who fail. More laughter. Richard loved an audience. I stepped into the garden. Every head turned like a choreographed dance. The conversations didn't stop all at once. It was more like a wave, spreading from the entrance toward where Richard held court. Whispers rippled through expensive perfume and cologne. Is that Paul Vincent? I thought he was bankrupt? Wait, Vincent? As in Vincent Maritime Holdings? Richard's smile faded like someone had dimmed a light switch. I walked through the garden with the kind of confidence you only earn by losing everything and learning you're still standing. Guests parted without realizing they were doing it. I caught fragments of whispered conversations. My name, my grandfather's company, speculation about how I could possibly be here looking like I'd stepped off a yacht. Then I saw Jennifer Hayes near the champagne fountain, wine glass frozen halfway to her lips. Her face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Shock, confusion, recognition, and something that looked almost like fear. She knew what my presence here meant. She'd warned Mary this invitation was cruel. Now she was watching the consequences unfold in real time. Jennifer. I nodded politely. You look well. Paul? Oh, we thought you were. She couldn't finish the sentence. Broke? I was. That situation resolved itself 8 days ago when my grandfather's trust unlocked on my 30th birthday. I smiled, not cruel, just factual. Turns out I'm worth about $47 million now. Give or take a few million depending on the market. Jennifer's wine glass slipped from her fingers. It shattered on the marble, red spreading across white stone like blood. No one moved to clean it up. Everyone within earshot had gone completely silent. The trust was in my grandfather's will. Specific conditions: I couldn't access the funds until I turned 30, and only after experiencing genuine financial hardship. He wanted me to understand who loved me for me versus who loved me for what I could provide. I looked around at the shocked faces. It was quite the education. Does Mary know? Jennifer's voice was barely a whisper. Not yet. But she invited me here for closure. I'm simply providing it. I glanced toward the bridal suite, where I knew Mary was probably making final adjustments, blissfully unaware that her definition of closure was about to get complicated. Tell me, where is the bride? I'd hate to miss the ceremony. Jennifer just pointed, her hand shaking. Richard intercepted me before I reached the bridal suite. He materialized with the aggressive energy of a man defending territory, his smile tight and forced. Up close, I could see the slight red in his eyes, already drinking, already celebrating his victory over the poor ex-boyfriend. Paul Vincent. He extended his hand. Glad you could make it. Heard you've been going through a rough patch. I shook his hand firmly. Went through. Past tense. You must be Richard Sterling. I've heard quite a bit about you. His chest puffed slightly. All good things, I hope. I run the operations division at Sterling Holdings. VP of operations, actually. 6 years now. Your father's company? I said pleasantly. Yes, I'm familiar. VP of operations, reporting directly to your father, the CEO. A title you've held for 6 years without significant advancement to senior VP or COO. Must be comfortable working for family. The red in his eyes intensified. I've earned my position. I'm sure. I smiled. Interesting coincidence, actually. I just reviewed my investment portfolio from Vincent Maritime Holdings. That's my grandfather's shipping company, you probably know it. We own 15% of Sterling Holdings stock. Makes us your third largest shareholder. Richard's face went from red to white. You, what? The acquisition finalized yesterday. My legal team thought I should be more active in our investments, especially since your father's considering early retirement. The board vote is in 3 months, I believe. I'm looking forward to participating. I adjusted my cufflinks. Small world, isn't it? Why are you telling me this? His voice had dropped to something dangerous. Professional courtesy. We're going to be seeing each other at board meetings. Might as well establish a friendly rapport. I paused. Congratulations on the wedding, Richard. Truly. Mary always valued security above everything else. You can provide that. I respect it. Then why the hell are you here? Because she invited me. Because she wanted closure. And because I need to remind myself why I don't regret choosing integrity over keeping what I never earned. I looked him directly in the eyes. You inherited your position. I built mine, lost it, and earned it back. We're not the same, Richard. Enjoy your wedding day. I walked past him, leaving him frozen in his expensive suit, probably calculating how much power I now had over his future. Mary emerged from the bridal suite into the sunlight and time stopped. She was beautiful, I had to give her that. The dress, her hair, the makeup, all of it was perfect. She looked like every bride should look, radiant, glowing, ready to start a new chapter. Then she saw me. I watched the recognition move across her face in slow motion. First, confusion. Who was this man in the expensive suit? Then her eyes tracked to my face and something clicked. Her breath caught audibly. She didn't recognize the clothes, the confidence, the way I carried myself. But she recognized the pocket watch chain visible at my vest. identical to the one I used to wear when we were together. Paul? Her voice cracked on my name. Hello, Mary. She moved toward me like someone in a trance, weaving between tables and guests who'd gone silent, watching. Her dress rustled against chair legs. Someone's champagne flute tipped over. No one cared. Every eye was on us. You look different. She stopped 3 feet away, close enough to see my face, too far to touch me. I am different. 8 days ago I turned 30. My grandfather's inheritance trust unlocked. $47 million that I couldn't access while we were together. Money I couldn't touch until I'd lost everything and proved I didn't need it to define me. I kept my voice gentle, not cruel. He wanted me to learn who loved me for me. You failed that test, Mary. And I'm grateful you did. The color drained from her face. You had money this whole time? No. I had a promise. A promise to a dying man who wanted to teach me about character. I stepped closer. When my company failed, when the creditors called, when I was sleeping on my sister's couch, you didn't ask if I had a plan. You didn't ask if I'd recover. You asked if I could still afford the wedding venue. Then you left. Paul, I didn't know. You didn't ask. Tears streamed down Mary's face, destroying makeup that probably took hours to perfect. Mascara traced black rivers down her cheeks. Her hands shook. Around us, 100 guests pretended not to watch while hanging on every word. My mother died in debt, Mary whispered. When I was 12 we got evicted. I watched her cry over pills she couldn't afford. I promised myself I'd never be poor. Never struggle. Never feel that fear again. Her voice broke. When your phone started ringing with creditors, I heard my mother's sobs. I couldn't do it, Paul. I couldn't go back to that. I know. And I did know. I'd learned about her childhood from Jennifer, about the eviction, about the trauma that never quite heals. You chose security. There's nothing wrong with that. You chose what you needed. I chose integrity. We both got what we wanted. Did we? She gestured at the wedding venue, the roses, the guests, the life Richard's money built. Look at this. It's everything I thought I wanted. And the only person I want to share it with is standing in front of me in a suit that costs more than our first apartment's rent. Mary? I made a mistake. The words hung between us like smoke. I made a terrible mistake. Behind her, Richard emerged from the crowd, his face dark with anger and humiliation. The officiant stood near the altar, checking his watch nervously. The string quartet had stopped playing. Everyone waited. Maybe, I said finally. But it's your wedding day. Marry him. Build the secure life you need. I genuinely mean that. I forgive you for leaving. I forgive you for not believing in me. I forgive you for choosing money over character. I touched her cheek once gently the way I used to. But I also thank you. Because losing you taught me that my grandfather was right. Wealth without character is just expensive poverty. And character without wealth is still rich in all the ways that matter. Paul, please. Goodbye, Mary. I stepped back. I came because you invited me. I came for closure. And now I have it. I turned and walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard Mary sob, heard Richard's angry voice, heard the guests erupt in whispers. I didn't look back. William waited by the car, smiling. How do you feel? He asked as I climbed in. Free, I said, looking at my grandfather's pocket watch one last time. Finally free. As we drove away, I could see the wedding continuing in the rearview mirror. Mary walked down the aisle in her ruined makeup. Richard waited at the altar, humiliated but victorious in his own way. They'd get married. They'd build their life. And I'd build mine, on the foundation of integrity my grandfather taught me. 6 months later, I stood at his grave with fresh flowers and news he would have loved. Vincent Maritime had acquired Sterling Holdings shipping division, Elena had finished her first semester at the top of her class, and I'd met someone new. Someone who knew me when I had nothing and stayed anyway. I kept my promise, Grandpa, I said to the stone. Lost everything. Found myself. And you were right, she wasn't worth it. But becoming the man who could walk away. That was priceless. True wealth, I'd learned, is knowing your worth when you have nothing else.